Howdy everybody, this is Rochelle. One of the unique features about Equine Simplified is the ability to have different rates for whether you're at the horse show or you're at home. But also, as you're going into these shows, you'll have expenses that you're going to want to split amongst all the horses, some of the horses, or however you want to do that. We have the capability to do that very easily within Equine Simplified. And finally, you want the ability to be able to invoice immediately following the show, especially if you've incurred cost and you want to be able to recoup those costs. But even if you're not a trainer or a barn manager, and so if you're somebody like me who's an amateur, you may want also the ability to just track what are the horse show costs for each horse. And so you might have still the same need to have a certain fees that you want to split between your horses and track those costs per horse, or individual costs like entries and other individual costs per the show. So it gives us the flexibility to be able to do it whether you're a trainer or whether you're an amateur and just want to manage the cost of your individual horses. So here's how we do that. So in this example, I'm going to now record some horse show activities. And I can do this in two different ways. So I want to talk about that and what the different options are. So here's a couple options for recording, let's say, recurring daily charges. So this could be like daycare or braiding or something like that. And so option one is to record an activity for each day, meaning that if you have 5 days of daycare, which is the example I'm going to use, you would put in there 5 different activities for one for each day, and it would record the actual date on that activity. You can also select multiple horses, so you minimize how much inputting you have to do, but you do have to enter it in for each day. So it takes a little bit more time because of that. But what you'll get is an invoice that shows accurate accounting for every day at the show. Option two is that you can record activities with multiple quantities. So for instance, if in my daycare example, if I just wanted to record it on the first day of the show and say 5 days of daycare, it would be one line item that's invoiced that way. Again, you can select multiple horses, so it will make it faster. And so it is a fastest way. It just depends on what you want to see. So here, let me show you an example. I'm going to go for option one, I'm going to do that with daycare. And for option two, I'm going to do it for braiding. And I'll show you what the net result is in the way of the invoicing. Okay, so I've already entered in several of the option ones, but I'll show you how to do it. So there's multiple ways you can get to it. You can either from the home screen hit add activities, like you would normally do, and add an activity. You could also have gone to horse shows and hit add horse show activity. The only difference there is when you select that, it will automatically pre-populate the type of activity here to horse show. Okay, so now I'm going to select my activity. So I'm going to do daycare, and it'll be in barn. And it's going to ask you, when you have a horse show field, it's going to ask you to pick the show. And so this will be on the reporting and such. So you want to pick what show. And by doing that, it's going to default to the first date of that show, whatever date you've entered in. Now, I've entered it in for 4 days of this horse show, including 5/13. But let's say the horses got there on 5/12. And so thus I need to add that day as well to the show. So that's my last day. So when you select the horse show, it'll automatically select all the horses that you have tied to that horse show. So that's really nice because it makes it a lot faster for recording that activity, especially if you have a lot of horses there. If you don't need all those horses, you can deselect them very easily as well. And then finally, you want to do your charging. And so I'm just going to leave it as default based on charging based on the rate sheet. And then I'm going to save the activity. Okay, so now I'm going to add a new activity. I'm going to do braiding. Now, mind you, on the last one, I did enter it for 5 different days. So I entered 5 different activities just the same way. So on this one, I'll hit a horse show. I'll do braiding, mane and tail. Select show. And again, I can charge based on the rate sheet. Now, this is one date, one activity. Now, this quantity field, this is where it gets important. So quantity will always default to 1, actually, when you report an activity. So if in the last one, I left it blank. I didn't even mess with it. But if I come up to 4 different days, sorry, 4 days of braiding that happens for each of these horses, for instance. I can hit save activity. And again, I did leave it to default to the price, the default rate sheet as well. Okay, so now I've got all these activities in here. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the reports, and I'm going to go to invoicing just to show you what the invoicing line items are. I'm going to generate a new invoice. And here is Monkey. So Monkey had, remember these were the 5 days that I have daycare on there. So it shows for each day of the show, 5, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So it shows for each day and what the rate is, and it's 1 times $85 equals this. But notice that when I did the quantity of 4 for the braiding, it defaults to 4 quantity times the rate of 110 equals 440. So that is how it's going to show up, and that's the difference of using quantities. It's going to show it up on that you did 4 on this date. Maybe that's okay. Maybe you want it separated out by date. It is your preference. You can choose any way that you want. Okay, so next, now that you've got an idea of how to deal with quantities there, now we're going to talk about fees and what is a fee and what might you want to split. See, these are all items that were set up especially for each horse, but there are fee type of items. So for instance, at a horse show, you might have hotels, you might have food, you might have the tack room set up, a feed bill that you're going to just split amongst all the horses that are there. Or even if it's not across all the horses, maybe it's some of the horses. And that's fine. And so I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to horse shows and see how it says add horse show expense. So I'm going to go here. And this is a type of fee or expense. So let's say that I want to enter in hotel. I select the horse show. It's got 5 different horses here. The hotel was just an amount. There's no rate sheet for this. So I'm going to charge a custom rate. My cost for the horse show is $565. And that was actually my cost, and that's what I'm charging. I'm just passing those costs on. So now there's 2 options here. There is called a standard fee or a split fee. So if I leave it as standard fee, it is going to charge for each of these horses $565. If I select split fee, now it is going to split this $565 amongst all of these 5 horses. So let's show you what that looks like. Save fee. So in order to see what these fees look like and the amount, I'm going to just go finance and I'm going to select fees. And this takes me to an activity feed of just fees and expenses. Played with this and added a few in here, but this was on 513 and it was hotel RV, right? So here I have the 5 horses that I just did, hawk, monkey, rabbit, turtle, and whale for the 513. So I just entered this. And so if I go to monkey, for instance, and remember, I was looking at splitting the $565 divided by 5 horses. So notice the client price and the internal cost is now 113. So it automatically calculated that split for me because it was a split fee. It makes it so much easier because all you have to do is just enter in the fees from the receipts. It'll default to the horses that are here. If I had only selected 4 horses instead of all 5 that it defaulted to, that's fine. It would have just split it by 4 ways. So and now as you want to look at your invoice mockup, I go to Finance, Invoices, Generate New Invoice, we'll emblazon. And you can see the items I added before, which were the activities. And now you can see this one line item that is this horse show expense, $113. So back to the fees, let me go back to fees. And let's say I want to add, pick horse show. Let's say it's a fee that I want to have for each horse. Let's talk groom's tips, okay? I can do the horse show, Memorial Day Classic. I can say that for each horse, this is custom rate, And for each horse, it's going to be $75 for groom's tips that I'm going to collect and then pass on. So this is not a split amongst these horses. It will charge $75. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back to my finance invoices and look at my markup again. And that's going to show quantity of one of $75 because it didn't split it. So that's how the splits work. And just like this, I wanted to show you in this video how fast you can process and create the invoices. All I have to do is hit save and generate the invoice. And the invoice has been generated. And if I want to look at my invoices here, here it is, number 10. And this is the invoice that was just created. So it's that easy to be able to send it this quickly. And so you can either export it to PDF and then email it. You can send it invoice to QuickBooks. However you want to do it is your option. But that's how fast it is to do that for those horse shows. And one other option to see open billable line items for your shows, if you want to view it a different way, is if I go to reports and I look at billable line item, horse shows only. This will show you the different horse shows and what the billable line items are. And if I want more specificity, I can select my show. So I can pick just the horse show that I want. Let's go with this one and hit update. It will just pick all the line items for just that horse show. So you can see then what the billable line items are for just that horse show. So now we've walked through how to enter in activities for the horse show, how to enter in fees for the horse show, how to pick it for multiple horses, and either have each day and the quantity of one, or have the first day of the show and a quantity of however many days that is, so multiple quantities, to be able to record those activities. We also talked about fees and the difference between putting a fee in and splitting it versus putting a fee in and just leaving it as a standard fee that applies to multiple horses as well. This is going to make your life so much easier, and it's so much faster because it does all the calculations for you.
Thanks for watching. We're going to be posting more videos related to Equine Simplified tips and tricks, as well as general horse care topics. So please remember to subscribe so that you can get the latest. Now, time to go play with the horses. Cheers!